So in this section of the video, we're going to deal with some exercises and some questions. So one question I've gotten before is, when I go to my salvo, I don't see anything. So like for example, I click on this one and I don't see anything. It says no data. What's going on? What's wrong with it? Well, that's because your tab up here, you're in virtual. If you go to your physical tab, which is what this one is, that's where that lives. And there's going to be some of these diagonals that are going to be physical, looking at the EQX or the EMR sources in this case and destinations, and that's why that one will not work. Now, another thing that happens quite frequently, somehow or at some point, a silo can be corrupted and it won't fire. So if you load up your show and it comes up here and the fire is grayed out and you don't have to upload anything, you haven't edited it, what you want to search for is an unrecognized source. And you can just do that by typing in "un," and if anything pops up, they need to be deleted. And it can be the destination device or the destination alias. And if you have any unrecognized sources, the salvo will not fire. But once you erase those and you send the change, then that will work. So, and the other thing, that if the truck is to lose power, what's the one thing that I have to do? Well, and that is fire your subscription salvo. So you have to be careful during the day to make sure you save those and that you have at least a basic subscription of whatever subscriptions you're using, and that has to be ready to go. And it's even good to have this on a button, like on your engineering panel somewhere in the back, where you can just quickly, you don't have to wait to open up this page if you're in a crisis situation, that you can send this right away and get it going. Now, one thing we went over today that has come up many times in the past is what happens if I can't edit my panels in a group. I'm in here editing them, and we did go over it. So the best way to deal with that, if you have the time, is to go in and do a make like. So say pick all these panels, and I do a make like. I pick one in the group, apply, and then I have to go back in and edit the destinations of all those panels. But if you can't edit them together as a group and you want to, make like is really the best way to do that. Now, another thing that comes up a lot of time in salvos is, say a client wants to have certain EVS inputs change based on where cameras are. So to do that, you would create a new salvo, look at EVS, and say we want to do these particular ones, and you can go to Route Tools and say I want Cam 1, my end source is Cam 3. So now I've got these routed. But one thing that I can do after I save this, and I'm going to just call this Salvo 1, and say there's going to be certain situations where I want something else to happen. So maybe in this case I want these cameras to go to these machines, but maybe there's going to be another situation where I want to mix it up. So I want to have camera 2 going to this one, and maybe camera 1's going to this one, and maybe Cam 4 is going to this one, this situation. Well, I don't want to overwrite that one, and I've just changed it here. So now I can do a save as and call it Salvo 2. So now I have two salvos that are using the same EVS inputs, and I could create two buttons that's on. Sometimes they'll put another tape op, or even have a runner saying they're cutting inputs. Like in hockey, they may cut the overheads going to certain EVSs, and this is how you would do that. But keep in mind, if you were to edit a salvo during a show, the salvo will not fire until you do an upload. And for me personally, I don't like to do an upload less than an hour before air. I'll do routes, or I'll send updates to panels, but unless it's something really important, it's better not to do an upload while you're on the air, just in case the server was to crash or something else bad was to happen. I really try and keep that either at halftime, maybe I'll do it, or something else. But I really try not to do an upload during the show. Now, something I've had before where someone asks, I want to have my Wohler follow the monitor. So say you want to route something to a VIP input, and you want to have the Wohler follow. So the way you would do that is, let's figure out what Wohler. Let's just say in this case it was this one. So I'm going to do Control C, and then I'm going to find my VIP. I'm going to add that to that VIP destination. So Control V to paste. So now what I've done is that Wohler destination is going to follow with the VIP. When you route to the VIP, that audio source is going to go into the Wohler as well. Another thing that comes up quite often is I want to have the producer audio follow into his Wohler when he's routing that. Well, what many of us do is we use frame syncs for the ISO router. So if I go into his Wohler, let's say for example this is the producer Wohler, and if you are using a frame sync as your ISO, you can just put the frame sync in here. So you're using frame sync 3 into whichever channel of the Wohler he wanted. So then that would be a quick way of doing that without actually shooting the router or doing something else, because he's routing that device. Say FrameSync 3 was your ISO path. You can actually put that in whichever channel of the Wohler that you want. And I get asked quite often is, how can I get faster when I'm doing my edits? And really it kind of goes back to the old joke of how do I get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. And it's the same for doing stuff in Magnum. The more you do it, the faster you'll get. And when you start getting the tips and the little tricks of going around when you're editing a panel, editing them as a group is a really fast way of getting used to things, and knowing how to do searches over here quickly for something and adding new things. It's just really takes time. But the more you do it, the faster you'll get, and the faster you'll get at it. But editing one panel at a time takes you forever. So the more panels you can edit together, even if it takes you more time initially to set it up at the beginning of the day, if you can't edit a panel as part of a group, it's going to save you later on when you're trying to edit a bunch of panels quickly and you have a lot of changes coming in. And that's the other thing that goes to making it faster, is whatever you can do ahead of time to get ready, whatever paperwork you can do, whatever you get from the client's information ahead of time, and get that done. That's going to help you very, very much. And it's also very important at the end of the day to shut down the servers correctly. And we've gone over this with a few people, and some people do it, but you got to remember to turn off your servers at the end of the day when you're powering down the truck. And the way that the correct order to do it in is to first turn off your backup server, then turn off your primary server, and then turn off your EQX frame. And then when you power up in the morning, you should do just the opposite. You turn on your primary server first to let it get fully on its feet, then turn on your backup server, your secondary server, and then turn on the EQX frame. And you need to do that every time you power the truck up and down. And it's always a good idea to look at your frame as well. See where the lights are. If the green is good, if it's yellow, that means you're on your redundant server, and we're going to have another video later on to talk about that. But really pay attention to what your system's doing. I mean, everything that's going on in your truck depends on this router, so it's a good idea to keep an eye on it and to know what the norm is for your truck. So thanks for watching. Please send any questions or comments or things you'd like to see in future videos, and happy routing.